Good evening. This is Amber with Amber Poetry and Song. I'm coming to share a video with you of a study that I had earlier this morning. The Lord led me to First Kings chapter 11. And I'm just going to share with you the prophetic insight and the wisdom that I got as I was reading this word and reading this chapter. This word that I have to give, because this is not from any vision or dream that I had. This is just what the Lord was ministering to my spirit as I was reading this, is what I will be sharing. This is about serving other gods. Well, first and foremost, it's about those who are in prominent positions, who get in those positions and they begin to serve other gods, fall prey to women who serve other gods and not the Most High God, as well as the kingdom, you know, being removed from you, the Lord rejecting you and choosing someone else to do what He's called you to do instead of, the person He initially chose to do that, as well as running from your calling. Okay, so I'm just going to start reading at verse 1. Um, like I said, I'm in First Kings chapter 11. This is about Solomon, King Solomon. It says, Solomon takes foreign wives. So it says, but King Solomon loved many strange women. It says, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. So Solomon, his heart was turned away from God, because of these foreign women, because these foreign women served false gods. Okay. Verse 3 says, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. And so Solomon was like lukewarm with the Lord. He did not have a heart after God the way that King David did. He allowed these women to turn his heart away from God. And when you are a servant of God, a child of God, and He places you in a very prominent position, whether you are a man or a woman, and the Lord is taking you through that process, through your process, He doesn't want you to get to those positions and then begin to turn away from Him. Many times when you're in those positions to bring glory and honor and praise to the Most High, through whatever it is that you're doing, through people just seeing your walk, being an example, the example to God, being an ambassador for Christ in those high positions, those prominent positions. He doesn't want you to get up there and to be influenced by all the other things that those around you that are worldly may be influenced by. But instead, He's calling you there to be the light in darkness, to shine the light in darkness. And so when you're called to a prominent place, a prominent position, it's for you to serve God, to bring glory and honor to the Lord's name, to be an example to those around you that don't know God, that are not serving God, not for you to run after and go after their practices, their false gods, you know, because just as the Lord can put you in that position and, raise you up into a very prominent position, he can take you away from it just as quick if you turn away from serving him to go after, false gods, because our God is a jealous God. And he says that, in his word in Exodus 20. This is what it says. Exodus 20 says, verse 3, thou shalt have no other gods before me. It says, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. And so, like I said, Solomon, he he was the king of Israel at that time, the son of David, king of Israel. And he allowed these women, these foreign women, to turn his heart away from the Most High God, to where he began to go after their false gods. And that's the thing. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Uh, when it comes to women, women are very powerful, whether they serve God or whether they don't serve God. They have the power to influence. I found this, you know, a few years ago, that us women, we hold a lot of power when it comes to influencing a man, to where whatever we are doing, you know, a man is easy for a man to begin to take on those things that we are doing, the ways that we are walking. And so if someone is walking after another god, and coming to you with all this stuff that sounds, spectacular, you know, that seem like it could solve all your problems and stuff, it's easy for a man to fall prey to that, to begin to take on those practices, even if they're not of God, just by how much power and influence that this woman may have over him. And so the Lord just brought that to my mind, and I wanted to, say that women have a lot of power to influence men. Imagine if he didn't have all these wives and he had just one wife who was serving the Most High God in spirit and in truth. Just alone, just that woman alone doing that, she has enough power to influence him to serve, the Most High God in spirit and in truth, to help him keep his heart towards God, and to not go after other false gods. But Solomon, he became king, and his eyes was everywhere else, all these different foreign women, and these foreign women influenced him with their false gods, and he began to go after them. And so I'm going to pick up at verse 7. It says, then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. A big no. God is a jealous God. It says, verse 9, and the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. I'm going to reread that. It says, and the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. So right here, because I never paid attention to this until now, Most of the time we pay attention to the fact that Solomon prayed to God for what wisdom and something else, and he how the Lord blessed him, but we don't talk too much about how it was for him as he was king, and the things he encountered, the struggles that he had. And so right here is saying that God was angry with Solomon, and it's because he was going after other gods. God is a jealous God. But then also the Lord had appeared to him twice. The Lord had spoken to him twice. And so at that point, he was rebelling against God. He was being disobedient. He was not listening to the commandments of the Lord, what the Lord was instructing him to not do. And when you go against what the Lord is telling you not to do, you know, the only thing left after that is for him to reject you. And so the Lord will speak to his servants, those that he puts in those positions, in those prominent positions. You know, if they begin to be influenced by these things, these practices in this world, you know, these false gods in this world in today, and speak to their hearts to warn them after, going after things that are not of him. But it's up to you to listen, to take heed to those instructions, to the Lord's commands, to humble yourself and hear, the voice of the Lord when he's warning against those things and commanding to not do certain things. Because just because you are in a prominent position does not mean you can do everything else that those that are also in prominent positions but are worldly are doing. You're called to be the light, to shine the light in darkness. And so it says that, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. So he was willfully disobedient to what the Lord asked him. Okay, verse 11 says, wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant. We see here the same thing that happened with Saul. Saul was disobedient to the Lord, when he told him to kill King Amalek and everything, attached to him, the people, the babies, everything. And he did everything else, but he did kill the king. He spared the king. We see the same thing happening with Solomon here, except it had to do with women and the false gods that they served, and him ignoring the voice of the Lord, warning him to not go after these things. And so the Lord basically was rejecting him at this point. And that stuck out to me today because I never really truly noticed that before until now. Even though it's always been there, I never really truly paid attention to it. But Solomon was rejected by the Lord from being king. And basically he was telling him that he's taken the kingdom from him and he's given it to his servant. So someone better than him. The same way that Saul told that the Lord told Saul that, and it was given to David, Solomon's father. The same thing happened with King Solomon. The kingdom was taken from him and it was given to another. It says, notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David, thy father's sake. So the Lord had mercy on Solomon for the sake of his own father, David. He says, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. So um, sometimes when the Lord has rejected you, you know, when the Lord has rejected you, sometimes you will continue to operate in that position. Just because the Lord rejects someone does not mean that they are automatically, terminated from holding that position right away. Sometimes the Lord will allow you to continue operating in that position, and it will come later on, or it'll come down the line to right here. We're seeing it says his son. He said, I will rend it out the hand of thy son. Okay. And so he was still, you know, king, when the Lord gives a word of judgment or a word where it's showing that he's rejected someone, it does not change the fact, that they may have been the Lord's anointed, but it doesn't take away either from the judgment that the Lord has given because of that. So you could be the Lord's anointed and still have a judgment spoken against you because of disobeying the Lord, rebelling against the Lord. And he will allow you to operate in that position, even when it comes to spiritual gifts, like being in the office of a, prophet and apostle, those things. The Lord will allow you to operate in those things because the gifts are without repentance, but it does not mean that, you know, it does not mean that you will continue, that you won't still operate in that position. Sometimes that those words are immediately, soon, and sometimes it comes later, but it doesn't change the fact. Just because you're anointed does not exclude you from being able to receive judgment from the Lord, or a word of judgment from the Lord for being disobedient, for rebelling against him, especially for going after gods that he doesn't know, like that he has no dealings with. And so I just wanted to put that out there with this as I, read that verse. Verse 13 says, Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. 14 says, And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the king's seed in Edom. For it came to pass, when David was in Edom, and Joab the captain of the host was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom, it says, For 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel until he had cut off every male in Edom. The Hadad fled, and he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. So something else I noticed there is that Egypt was a hiding place for many in times, when something was going on, when someone was after the life of a servant, or of someone in the Bible. Egypt was a hiding place for these people back then, because that's where the angel told Joseph to go with Mary when Jesus was born. Um, I want to say another place, but think of I can't think of who it is, but I believe it's someone else that fled into Egypt as well. But verse 18 says, And they arose out of Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, which gave him a house and appointed him victuals and gave him land. It says, And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him to wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tapenes the queen. And the sister of Tapenes bare him Genubath his son, whom Tapenes weaned in Pharaoh's house, and Genubath was in Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the captain of the host was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, Let me depart, that I may go to my own country. Then Pharaoh said unto him, But what hast thou lacked with me, that behold, thou seekest to go to thy own country? And he answered, Nothing. Howbeit, let me go in any wise. And God stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Eliada, which fled from his lord Hadadezer. These names be hard. King of Zobah. And he gathered men unto him and became captain over a band. When David slew them of Zobah, and they went to Damascus and dwelt therein and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon. So, also because of Solomon's disobedience, he gained these adversaries because of his disobedience to the Lord. It says, beside the mischief that Hadad did, and he abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria. 26 says, in Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant. Remember that when the Lord said to Solomon, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, he said, I will give it to thy servant. So Jeroboam is that servant. It says, in Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. It says, and this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Millo and repaired the breaches of the city of David, his father. It says, and the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. So Solomon saw that Jeroboam was a mighty man. It says of valor. I think I said that wrong the first time. But he saw that he was a mighty man of valor. This reminds me, is like Solomon began to take on the same spirit of Saul at this point. He was watching Jeroboam, and he saw that this man was a mighty man, um, to the point that he made him ruler over the charge of the house of Joseph. It says, and it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they too were alone in the field. So the prophet is about to speak to Jeroboam and um, tell him what's to come. It says, and Ahijah caught the new garments that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. It says, and he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. So he told him that the tribes will be given to him, and that the kingdom will be taken from King Solomon. Then he says, but he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. So he's telling Jeroboam why the kingdom is being rent from King Solomon. And he's saying it's because he served all these other gods, these false gods. He says, howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life, for David, my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. So he's being told that the kingdom's being given to him. It says, and unto his son will I give one tribe, that David, my servant, may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shall be king over Israel. So basically, the prophet Ahijah is telling Jeroboam that he's being made king over Israel. So this is like him anointing him or confirming, him. And it says, and it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments. Here are the terms, because every time that something like this happens, the Lord gives his terms. His terms is And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee and build thee a sure house as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. So I'm going to pause right there. When the Lord is making someone's name great, when he's putting them in a prominent position, and they are a child of the Most High God, most likely they've gone through a process. And, you know, before the Lord allows you to be in those kind of positions, I'm sure, just like right here, he allows you to know his terms, because he's the one that's placing you there. He's the one that's setting you up. And he's the one that can take you down if you don't abide to those terms. And it's to follow his commands, to walk after him, to not get to those positions and begin to forget the Lord your God, because of those around you are influencing you in every way, to where you turn away from the Lord and you forget him, and then you begin to go after other false gods. I'm sure that he sets these terms, and before he sets these terms, he's tried that person to see if he can trust them. And that's why he allows them to be set in those positions, when it's the Lord, setting them in those positions for his glory, to bring glory and honor to his name. And so this is how the Lord was ministering to me, like prophetically, as I was reading this, even though this is about King Solomon and what happened with him because of him falling prey to these foreign women and their false gods. The Lord is also ministering to me when it comes to those who could be looked at as kings now, and not in a worship or idolatry way, but in a way of where you're the Lord has made your name great, or that you're in a prominent position in that kind of way. And so the terms again were, if thou will hearken unto all that I command thee, listen to his commands, follow them, will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee and build thee a sure house as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. 39 says, and I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. 40 says, Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, unto Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So I'm going to pause right there. It says, Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. He took on the spirit of Saul. He became envious. He became jealous because he saw, even though he already knew that the kingdom was going to be rent from him because the Lord told him that, he still chose to become envious and jealous of the person who the Lord chose that was better than him to take his position, even though it wasn't right away. He became envious. He began to look at Jeroboam with an evil eye, the same way Saul eyed David, and wanted to seek after his life, the same way Saul eyed David. And I want to say, when it comes to these things happening, in our time now, when the Lord is removing one and setting up another, these are the same things that will happen to those people that will come about. Spirits of envy, spirits of jealousy, people, seeking after their life because you see the greatness and the call that's on their life, that the Lord has chosen them instead of you, because you've been disobedient and you've rebelled against the Lord, to the point he's rejected you, and he's shown you that he's rejected you, as well as told you that he would set up another, that someone else would take your position, you know, and do the things that he's called you to do. But instead, they will do it, and they will do it in obedience, full obedience, someone that's better than you. These same things happen today with those that the Lord wants to make name great, and who he is going to lift up and exalt to become prominent, leaders, to become, um, you know, kings, or, just be in those types of positions where they have some sort of influence and power. These are the same things that will happen, especially from the person that's being demoted. They will begin to watch that person with an evil eye once they realize who it is that the Lord is going to use instead of them. So it says, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt. And so here's the part where you have to decide whether, when the Lord shows you the call that He has on your life, or the greatness that's within you, or what He wants to do, or He gives you a glimpse of what He wants to do with you. It's up to you to make the choice whether you're going to accept that call or whether you're going to run from that calling, whether you're going to allow, the evil eyes, the envy, the jealousy of others to run you from your calling, to make you afraid, to fear, or whether you're going to stand up boldly and courageously and pursue whatever it is that the Lord is calling you to do. You have to make that decision, because the Lord does not want any cowards. He's not going to use no one that's going to be a coward. He wants to use those that are fearless, that are willing to go, that are willing to stand up, to stand in the gap, and to do what He's asked them to do. Those are the kind of people that He wants to use. And so do not allow fear to overtake you, um, especially if the call over your life is great, especially if you recognize and discern that the people that the Lord is demoting, that they've recognized and discerned that it's you that He wants to use. You cannot be afraid of that. You can't be afraid of people, of their faces. You have to pursue that thing, even in the midst of the envy, the jealousy, even in the midst of people seeking after your life. That is why you stay in the secret place of the Most High. That way He can lead you, He can guide you, He can protect you, He can let you know ahead of time what's up before it happens, so that you will know which way to go. The Lord always goes before you to order your steps, to direct your path, to make sure that His chosen, His anointed will be protected, will be safe, and will be able to accomplish that thing which He's called them for to do. And so, you cannot be afraid, because just like disobedience, worshiping false gods, willfully rebelling against the Lord will cause you to be rejected by the Lord, fear will also cause you to be rejected by the Lord. And so I want to go to another place, because the Lord did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Um, this is what the word says when it comes to fear, when it comes to the Lord calling you to do something, because it's the same thing. The Lord does not change. There's nothing new under the sun. He's the same today, yesterday, and forever. Jonah, he became fearful. And guess what happened when he tried to run from his calling because of fear? He was swallowed by a whale. There's consequences for running from your calling, for becoming fearful. The Lord knows, that you might be afraid, but don't run from your calling. Pursue that thing even in fear, in spite of fear. Pursue that, whatever God is calling you to do, in spite of fear. Do it afraid. I know I have to do things afraid a lot of times. Certain things that I do, people may think that, oh, she just got it. And no, a lot of times there's fear that people have to overcome before they step out there and do certain things. But because we know that the Lord is with us, that is what keeps us going and moving forward. And so, um, this is what the Lord says. This is what the word says about the fearful, because the Lord does not want cowards. He wants people that are bold, that are courageous, you know, that will that are willing to step out in spite of fear. Um, Let me see. Okay, so Revelations chapter 21, verse 8. This is what it says, because I don't think people really pay attention to these things when they're reading. I'm going to start at verse 6. It says, and He said unto me, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. but the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Okay, and so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to reread verse 8. It says, but the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So being fearful would get you caught up in the lake of fire um, when it comes time, for judgment. Like, you will end up in the lake of fire for being fearful. Um, when it comes to, you know, the call in your life, what God is asking you to do, if you run from it, you can end up in the lake of fire for being fearful instead of stepping out on faith and allowing God to lead you and guide you and to protect you. God is with us. He's with you. If he's called you to do something, trust and believe he's gone before you and he's prepared the way, and he's going to be with you and walk with you when you go through troubled waters. When whatever tries to come against you, he's going to be with you. So there's no need to be afraid. But I know sometimes it's better said than done. But even in all of that, you still have to do it afraid sometimes, because sometimes fear doesn't go away, but you have to overcome it and you have to still push forward in the midst of it. But the fearful is saying in the word, and his word cannot return unto him void. His word doesn't lie. It says the fearful. So this is one of those ways where you can be fearful and it can get you caught up in the lake of fire because you rebelled against the Lord, um, because you're running from your calling, because you are afraid of people's faces, because you're afraid of those that are seeking after your life. um, Jeroboam, he also was rejected because of this. He It says he, because he knew that Solomon was after him to kill him, he became afraid, like I said, and he arose, and they say he fled into Egypt. So he went into Egypt to hide from King Solomon until he died, until he passed away. And there are certain times in the word where God has commanded people through an angel, that he sent an angel through a dream or something to tell them to go, flee into Egypt until something's overpassed. But this was not one of those cases. He went and did this on his own. The Lord did not command him to do that. The Lord didn't send an angel to him telling him to go flee into Egypt. This is something that he was going to have to do in spite of someone being after, um, that he was going to have to hold in spite of someone being after his life. So that word was given to him from the prophet Ahijah, but then he took it upon himself to run from that because King Solomon was after him to kill him. And so verse 41 says, "And the rest of the acts of Solomon and all that he did and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon?" So 42 says, "In the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead." So it says, yeah, Jeroboam rebelled. He rebelled. He ran. He ran from King Solomon. And so the person that ended up um, being able to reign, was Rehoboam instead of Jeroboam. And so, like I said, fear will cause you to be rejected. It will cause you to end up in a lake of fire if you don't watch it, if you don't, you know, overcome that spirit of fear, because God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And so fear is something we have to overcome in order to be able to do the work of the Lord, to be able to walk in the way that God has called us to, answer our calling and to boldly walk in it. We have to overcome fear. And so I just want to go back to something, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so like I said before, when it comes to this chapter that I just read, the Lord wants us to come from out of hiding. When it comes to your calling, those who are in prominent positions, who the Lord has called to do something, obey the Lord, obey what He has put in you, what He's instilled in you. Don't turn to the left or to the right. Keep your eyes looking straight ahead, and walk in the ways and the commandments of the Lord, and be that light, shine that light in the midst of darkness. Because if you won't, the Lord will remove you and He will set up another. And I believe that that's what's actually taking place right now in this hour, because as I read this, I began to, a lot of times when the Lord speaks to me is when I'm dozing off. So I dozed off, and I had like this vision where I it's like vision slash I hearing in the spirit, like I heard the sound of a shot clock, the sound that it makes once it's run out of time, 3 times. And I know when the Lord allows you to hear something 3 times, at least 3 times, it's urgent, it's serious. And so I'm gonna go into that in a minute, but I just want to reiterate that you have to pursue your calling no matter who's after your life, no matter who's envious, no matter who's jealous of you, um, because they know that the kingdom, or they know that the assignment that the Lord has given them has been taken from them and is being given to another. You have to pursue that calling regardless. You have to be brave, you have to be of good courage, and you have to walk in the way that the Lord is calling you to walk. You have to answer that call, you know, allow the Lord to use you, and to not be afraid of the faces of people, of the tactics, of the intimidation that will come from those who feel like they're better than you because they're higher up than you. You have to be able to deal with those things, be able to ignore those things, and you have to know spiritual warfare to be able to deal with those things, because that's what really will help you get through these things, and to begin to, just be courageous, and walk in the boldness of Christ. Um, and so, like I said again, Solomon was rejected because of disobedience, and so was Jeroboam. Solomon, because of the women and their false gods, because he began to go after their gods, worshiping them, serving them, burning incense to them, things that we are not supposed to do. And Jeroboam, because of his fear and rebelling against the Lord, going into hiding when he was not commanded. He was not commanded to, and so, you know, when it comes to these prominent positions, and what could be an example, because you may not be a man, you could be a woman in these positions doing these things. But if you are a man, it could literally be women that could throw you off, due to their practices that do not honor or serve the Most High God. Things such as witchcraft, a lot of new age and occult things that could throw you off, that could cause you to turn away from the Lord. When you know that you have had a heart after God, those are things that could turn you away, you know, that have, deeper roots to them, or history behind it that may lead to false gods. when you look certain things up and do your research. It's a lot of things that can lead to false gods. You just have to do your research and be willing and wanting and humble enough to even receive the information of what you're researching, or whatever it is, because these things is many things that could have false gods behind it, and you be serving it and not realize that you're serving it. um, that can anger God, because he is a jealous God. That does not change about him. And so, yeah, because in the times we're living in right now, we see an increase of witchcraft, of all types of stuff, you know, people worshiping things that cannot help them, that cannot save them, cannot save their soul. And you get in these positions and you begin to follow after these practices, the Lord will replace you. He will reject you and he will replace you and give that assignment, that position to another, one that is better than you. And so that is something to be mindful of, to remember the Most High God when he set you up in those positions, because promotion comes from him anyway. And so you want to remember God when you get to those positions, and when certain assignments are given to you, you want to remember him. You don't want to get up there and forget him. You want to continue to give him glory, praise, and honor, and worship him in spirit and in truth, you know, as you're exalted, as you're prominent, as he's making your name great, because he's doing it for his glory anyway, not for you to get up there and it to be for your own glory. But that is the end, of this study, of the insight, the wisdom that, was given to me as I was reading this, as I was studying this. Now, as far as the vision that I received, um, like I said, I had this vision today, and it was at 9:37, and what I heard, well, I said vision, but it was more like, I don't know if it was a trance or what, but I was dozing off, and I heard the shot clock sound of when the time is up, and I heard it 3 times. And so this is what I believe that the Lord is saying, because this is also what I've been observing and discerning, as well as other words he's given me, shown me through vision, um, that it's time's up for some of these people in these prominent positions that he's given assignments to either to bring glory and honor to his name. Pastors that are um, that were called to be shepherds, that are not doing it according to his word. Um, he's substituting people in this hour. He's removing and he's replacing people in this hour. He's removing people and he's promoting people to those positions, to begin to reign in those positions, to walk in those positions, and to walk righteously in those positions, in obedience. I looked up a shot clock. And so a shot clock is a digital clock that displays a number of seconds. It says the shot clock is usually displayed above the blackboard behind each goal, allowing offensive players to see precisely how much time they have to shoot their shot, basically, and officials to easily determine whether buzzer beaters should be counted. Okay, and so it says 3 signals indicate when the time to shoot has expired. So I'm gonna skip the first one because it's just talking about when it's at 0, but it talks about when you hear the audible horn. This is what I heard as I was dozing off. I heard that audible horn and I heard it 3 times. An audible horn is distinct from the scoreboard operator signal. An audible horn distinct from the scoreboard operator signal for end of period and substitutions. So It is time's up for people who have not walked righteously in those positions that the Lord has given them, that are prominent, people that he's made, whose names he's made great. You're going to see removing of people who are great, and the things he's called them to do, he's going to be raising up other people to walk in those positions, to walk in them righteously. People who will get up there and won't forget the Most High God, who will walk in His ways, who will keep His commands, who will bring glory, honor to His name, who will not worship other gods, who will not make Him jealous because of their worshiping of false gods, who will be the light and shine the light in the darkness, who will be ambassadors for Christ, who will not grieve His Holy Spirit in those positions and those assignments that He's calling them to. That is what's happening in this hour. God is removing and he's setting up another. It's time's up. Their time has expired, and he's substituting. Basically, he's replacing people, and so that's the prophetic word to that vision. That the audible, what I heard. I don't really know what to call it, but it was like a vision, and I was hearing audibly as I was dozing off. Um, And a lot of times that's what the Lord would do. Like he causes me to also be like drowsy when he's giving me these visions. Because I guess sometimes I be doing too much to where I don't keep still. Um, and so I guess that's when he has to do it. He has to cause this sleepiness to come over me to be able to receive sometimes what he's saying, if I don't just get before him and just sit before him. There's times where I will lay literally on the floor, or I will sit down on the floor, and I just sit in silence quietly, and or I'll put on worship music and I'll just sit, and then the Lord will begin downloading visions to me. And if not that, then dreams. I'm a strong dreamer, and as well as I get many visions, many revelations daily. And so that is what was revealed to me today. And this was right after I had read First Kings chapter 11. And so I believe that's why he led me there, because this is speaking prophetically. It's about Solomon, but it's also prophetically about what's happening right now in this hour in the world. He's removing people, and I think we all can see. May we can see for ourselves. Prominent people they're passing away. May they rest. May their souls rest in peace. But prominent people are being removed. They're passing away, um, and I believe we're going to continue to see more of that. For the ones that you know got up there and didn't do what they were supposed to, um, and not only just prominent people, but people that are pastors, that are walking in the fivefold ministry, or that are supposed to be a part of the body of Christ, and they've become very prominent as well, and have allowed the cares of the world to take over, to influence them away from God, to where they're no longer doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they've been called to those positions for. you know they've turned away from God, and they've began serving the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. Those are also people that we're going to, I believe that we will begin to see removed and replaced with those that the Lord is raising up, that will carry out the assignments and won't forget the Most High God, and will be examples, righteous examples of how you should be when you get to those positions, um, because ultimately it's to bring people back to God. It's to bring glory, honor to His name. It's to bring people back to God, turn people's hearts back to God, and to just be an example for those that don't know God to begin to come to him, to see that he's real, to see that there's not time to continue to do what you want in this life, because we are living in our last days and so much is happening. So many people are passing. There's, you don't have a lot of time like you think you do. And so the Lord is using people, raising up his servants that will harvest for him, that will labor for him, to bring in those who belong to God, who belong to God and don't even know that they belong to God. But he knows, because none of us knew that we belonged to God until he called us and then we answered. There's still people out there that belong to God. There's people in prominent positions who are lukewarm, who are on the fence that they belong to God. But sometimes they need people to grab them, to come out there, to help them, you know, to pull them up out of the fire, to pull them up out of that darkness. And so that is what God's getting ready to do. Use people that are willing to do that, who will not um, turn to the left, turn to the right, and be influenced by the things around them, who are strong enough to resist those things, the world, and still carry out their assignment, to be in the world but not of it, but carry out the assignment to complete it. And so that is all. I pray that somebody's edified from this video, that it speaks to your spirit, and that it reaches who it needs to. And so I will see y'all later, soon, with another prophetic word. See you later. Peace and goodbye and blessings to you all.